We have not a competing tourism campaign, but it very well could end up that way.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Or perhaps it should. Have you seen the new Benny's ad? It's really a Rhode Island ad. Benny's is in it, but if you haven't, you've seen it, right? Well, if you haven't, you will tonight, and you'll meet the owner of Benny's, and of course the musical director behind this new version of The Biggest Little, Steve Smith from the Naked, Silly Wabbit. Pleasure to have you on board. Thanks for tuning in to My State of Mind. Hey, listen, this just broke prior to even us squeezing into the rundown as we began the production of the broadcast today. GE will add 100 new tech jobs in Rhode Island, and that is a good thing. But I'm not going to say the devil's in the details, but the details are important. And a $5 million tax incentive, I think we've got to examine that. This culture of incentivizing companies to come here is unhealthy. Many states are addicted to this disease. The thing about it is, that drives me crazy, is if we had an environment that was conducive for everybody to want to come all the time, we wouldn't have to have special tax incentives. There's no definitive location for what GE is going to do with this new development and the 100 jobs they promised to begin with, and I think we're going to have to pay close attention to where that all ends up. But hey, listen, it's a positive vibe, and that's a good thing. Let's go to the rundown. Of course, we'll spend some time talking about the GE deal next week, no doubt. Bernie gets an invitation to the White House, not the one that he, of course, was looking for when this whole campaign started. Let's take a look at the headline here. The president looking to schmooze Bernie a little bit. Here's the latest from the network.
Today, Bernie Sanders heads to Washington to meet with President Obama at the White House. The party is hoping to unify against Donald Trump. Democrats acknowledge they need the millions of Sanders supporters to win the general election, after polls have shown Sanders would fare better against Trump in November.
It is certainly a persuasive argument. Nobody wants to see Donald Trump in the White House.
During a taping of The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, the president said Sanders has invigorated the party.
I thought that Bernie Sanders brought enormous energy and new ideas, and he pushed the party and challenged them. I thought it made Hillary a better candidate.
Presumptive Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton is focusing her attacks on Trump, calling him a demagogue after his relentless attacks on judges, the media, his opponents, and their families. In an interview with CBS's Scott Pelley, Clinton said her opponent is unprepared for the White House.
I do not believe his views or his rhetoric will find that favorable an audience in the general electorate. What he's already said, both words and deeds, disqualifies him from being president.
Today, Trump will meet with donors in New York. He's also promised to make a speech on the Clintons next week.
You know, Bernie actually might be, the president and Bernie might be closer than the president and Hillary are when it comes to the issue. So clearly there's an empathy there for the president. The president would like to be a lot lefter than he is. So his respect for Bernie Sanders, I think, is probably pretty profound. Did it make Hillary a better candidate? I don't know. That's hard to figure out because the candidates are chameleons. They move on the ideological spectrum depending on what they have to do. She will move righter as soon as she disposes of Bernie, which will come convention time, formally, I guess. Maybe he comes out and says something more profound prior to that. I doubt it. But Trump, on the other hand, is just kind of making it easy because when Bernie gets out, there's a bunch of points that'll go Hillary's way in the polls. This headline is just too much. You know, with all of this stuff over the judge who's from America and Indiana, you know, on the Trump University case, and his reference to his Mexican ethnicity. Now, with all of the pushback from the GOP leadership, Trump's saying man up, which is what I expect from him, which is why, inevitably, he can't win this election, right? All right, into Burrillville for just a second. We've been following this, and I promise you in the next week or two we'll pick up the story. This headline is an important one. The Senate is not going to move very quickly because of the labor focus there at the General Assembly for the folks who want to build this power plant in Burrillville. Representative Keeble came up with this idea to allow for the people to ratify the tax treaty that the town has potentially with the Invenergy company that wants to build the power plant. This press release issued yesterday from the town indicates that they do not support the legislation that supports the people's right to approve what the town is doing with the company. Did you follow all that? It's a little confusing. The town has, it's confusing if you're not following it. If you're following it, it's pretty simple. That would be an unprecedented piece of legislation, by the way, to allow the people of Burrowville to ratify that tax treaty. No other community has that. And even I agree with the opponents of the legislation that it would create a not in my backyard syndrome, which would be very unhealthy when it comes to major projects like that here in Rhode Island. Nonetheless, the town has spit out that anywhere between $90 and nearly $200 million is in the offing for the company to pay the town for this plant. That's a wide spread, and negotiations continue. I had told you that there was $100 million in the pipeline here for the town's taxpayers. It could be more. We'll see. The people need to hold the town council accountable for the best tax treaty they can possibly get. And that's the way it's supposed to work. Ratifying the town's work on that is, well, it's not constructive. All right, when it comes to charter schools, you know, I'm a big fan, and this is a big problem. Charter school headline here on the front page today, we'll highlight it a little closer. They're decrying cuts in funding. The governor had suggested that there ought to be a flat decrease on a per pupil basis for charter schools, meaning that the communities that have them or send kids to them would fare better on a cash flow basis. But now the House has made it even worse with some haphazard ad hoc formula that's only going to cut charter school funding even more. This is the classic work of the status quo defenders. The people who oppose change agency hate charter schools, and that is not a good thing. All right, the biggest little state in the union. Remember the jingle? Well, remember these headlines of a couple of months ago? This was the new tourism campaign, cooler and warmer, and it didn't go over very well. People didn't see it as cool or warm. Well, look at where we're going here. Which way am I going, Steve? Oh, yeah, I'll stay here. Here are the new headlines, and they really don't have anything to do with this campaign. This is just a private business engaging in a neat little ad campaign. One headline there, and then another. Here's the commercial that has a lot of people talking.
Story to be told. It's new and yet it's old. It's small, but it's as big as a deep blue sea. It's younger than today and 300 years away. Take my hand and come with me. We're the biggest little state in the union, Rhode Island, Rhode Island. The biggest little state in the union, Rhode Island, Rhode Island. Something here for everyone, everything beneath the sun. In the biggest little state of the union, Rhode Island. Come and see. Rhode Island, Rhode Island. Come and see. Rhode Island, Rhode Island. Come and see. Rhode Island, Rhode Island. Come and see.
So Arnold Bromberg returns, co-owner of Benny's. You don't have all the stock. How you doing? Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Last time around, we were worried about truck tolls. Mm-hmm. We're still worried about truck tolls.
Oh, for whom the tolls toll.
Yes, and you came out and were pretty strong on that particular matter. I mean, we touch on it in a little bit, but this ad campaign has people talking, which always means good things.
Right.
Probably for your register. But tell me the quick background on what you were trying to accomplish with this campaign, because clearly people are associating it with what they felt missing in the cooler and warmer debacle that we've experienced.
Right. Well, the way it started back, I think in March, probably around the time that Cooler and Warmer came out, we were working on plans for our spring-summer ad campaign. So we said, well, come up with something new then. But this was going on at the same time. So I worked with Dante Bellini, and the two of us were talking, and we both knew and remembered the song. And one thing led to another, and we said, why don't we do something with the biggest little state in the union? I said, well, what does it have to do with Benny's? I said, well, they belong together, and so that's how it came about.
When we come back, we'll meet the musical guru in all of this, Steve Smith, and talk about how the whole project comes together and what it means and whether or not somebody ought to borrow it, like the state of Rhode Island. Stay with us. So this is, Arnold, what is this? What is that?
That's part of it's a print ad. This is another ad that the ad agency that created the campaign back in 1981-82, John Koenig was the person actually who came up with the phrase "biggest little state in the union." And you know, it was reported earlier that this was never marketed outside the state, but it was.
You know what? I'm going to introduce Steve, who's going to be sitting here. People go, what the hell is Steve doing over there when Dan hasn't said hello? Hello, Steve.
Hi, how
Steve
are you?
Smith from Steve Smith
I'm
and the
here.
Nakeds.
I'm here.
But Arnold was, that's late plans. Arnold was telling the story. This gentleman that you've bumped into
Yeah.
is the actual creator of the phrase,
Right, he was
not the song.
Right, he was a copywriter working for the ad agency that created the campaign for the state. And he coined the phrase "biggest little state in the union," and there was a lot of thinking behind it. And he said, you know, you had to get something that that had clarity to it, as he put it, and was ownable, that no one else could say. And you know, like what he said to me was cooler and warmer. Well, Arkansas or Louisiana could use that, but no one else can say "biggest little state in the union." And it works.
So you came up with this, you along with Dante Bellini, who works for the RDW Group, which is an advertising agency that works on behalf of Arnold and Benny's and has a lot of other clients. Dante's a real smart guy. You come up with this idea to borrow this, and then what? You find this guy?
Yeah, we said, well, we need someone to update the music. And Dante knew Steve well, and it was a natural fit.
So
Yeah.
talk to me about the process. What happened there?
The process was Dante gave me a call and asked me if I wanted to do an ad for Benny's, which involved the old song "Biggest Little State in the Union." And you know me, I'm always up for a good time, and I'm always up for having fun. And I thought it was a great idea, so I said, yeah. But the only thing I want to do is I want to modernize it. I want to make it a Naked song. You know, whenever we do a cover tune, we make it a Naked tune. I said, we can't do the old version of it because it is old, you know. So I had my trombone player, Josh, we had a brainstorming session. I said, look, make it a Naked tune, make it upbeat, make it up-tempo, because they want to have fun with this thing, you know. They want to show all the fun things about Rhode Island that we love. So he said, this would be great. And he said, do you want to do it? I said, of course I want to do it, you know. So there it is.
So the interesting thing about the campaign, and again, it's not often, in fact, it's highly unusual. In fact, it might be one of the only times we've ever done this, which is to highlight a private entity's marketing promotional plan as a news story. The interesting thing about it is that on the heels of Cooler and Warmer, everybody kind of groping for something to respond and or to replace that concept. And with some video debacles that occurred out there with the state, tripping itself up, we don't have to revisit all that. This all of a sudden feels like a complete Rhode Island tourism, feel-good, join us type of place. What's neat about it is, and one day we played it on the radio, and people were actually commenting, mostly positive. You always get a criticism. But they were hearing just the audio. The audio has no Benny's references in it whatsoever, correct?
You noticed that too.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Obviously that's done purposefully.
Well, no, the song is the song, and the reason we used it is because it was there. It existed, and we felt it's as good a thing that has been written and performed to sell Rhode Island as anything else. And we just wanted to ride its coattails.
Now the visual thing is, every time you hear that song, you're going to think of Benny's, because it is. I mean, you're not from Rhode Island, but I grew up going to Benny's, looking through pressing my nose against the window, looking at the toys, and everything else. You know, I'm a Rhode Islander, and this is great to me. You know.
You know, you have to do that to me.
Yes, I do. Can I tell you?
So I can't share in the wonder and the history of Benny's,
How many times have you gone to
I never
Benny's?
pressed many times as a customer, but I never pressed my nose up against your window at Christmas time, hoping that Santa would deliver something that was at Benny's.
We're the kind
All
of
right.
true Rhode Islanders. We went to high school together.
Yeah, you know what? You know what? Here I am. What am I here? 17 years now, and I still get I'm still a carpetbagger, for heaven's sake. You know, you guys could leave. We got other things we can talk about here. The fabric of the state, actually, though, uniquely is reflected on a handful of businesses which have developed a relationship, you know, when it comes to Dell's Lemonade and you know, for some reason, New York System Wiener seems to always come into the front. But Benny's always comes into the conversation based on this heritage, based on this feeling. That is in of itself an aid to the state message. People don't look at that and say, oh, you hijacked the state's old theme. You actually incorporated, and that feels good to them. That's a tribute to your business, no
Right.
doubt.
We did this more as like a love song to the state. I mean, it's our way of giving back to the state. I mean, we feel part of the fabric of Rhode Island, and it's what we had to do. I mean, once the idea developed, we said it's a natural.
I don't think anyone could write another song that would capture what that song captures about the state of Rhode Island. I just don't think it can be done.
You know, it's interesting, and you're, you know, this is your field. Musically and artistically, sometimes all you need to do is touch up something that's been done well, and it feels brand new. It is hard, and you write, so you know what it's all about. It's hard from scratch to write something like that.
To capture the
Or to create a theme for Rhode Island that is new and more. It's not an easy thing.
Right.
And we can spend, as we have, millions and millions of dollars trying to figure the whole thing out. Sometimes the answers are right in front of you.
right here.
Right?
It's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they remake a movie, what version do you like better? I always like the original better than the newer one. They remake movies to put all the new technology in, but the story's still the same.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we made it a Naked's tune, but the story is still the same. It's the biggest little state in the union.
All right, so when we come back, we'll talk about what happens next, because, you know, this is maybe a gift to Rhode Island, but it's a budgetary gift, and it's an expense for Benny's, and I wonder if anything will come of this. Stay with us.
There's a story to be told. It's new and yet it's old. It's small, but it's as big as a deep blue sea. It's younger than today and 300 years away. Take my hand and come with me. We're the biggest little...
There you go. We're the biggest little state in the union. Again, brilliant, right there in front of you. Okay, so has the state said hello over this? Has anybody formally reached out to you and said, we should chat about this?
No, not yet.
Take over. I'm speechless.
I'll
No,
take
really, I mean, really, with all the hoopla that this thing has generated and all the conversations generated on talk radio and other media and beyond, obviously a buzz in the community. Nobody at Commerce has said, hey, by the way, Mr. Bromberg, any chance we could chat a little bit about this?
No, it hasn't happened yet.
Do you want it to?
Well, you know, all we've done is we've taken the song, which is the state song, and we've just modernized it and made it part of a marketing campaign. And obviously, we have an ulterior motive where we want people to shop at Benny's.
Right.
But I think what it proves is creatively the way that it's done, and we use this local drone videographer and all local talent, and the raw material is there in the beauty of the state. We have the talent to take pictures of it and write a story about it, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
There was this feeling, and the Romano administration has brought this feeling, that a lot of out-of-town folks come in. And you know what? I've never been one who's so tunnel vision that I say only the folks in the state of Rhode Island can provide solutions for all sorts of things that will benefit the state. But when it comes to grabbing the essence and the fabric of this place, the nuances of this state are all too apparent to those who are from here, and I'm from here.
I know that.
I'm kidding, but it takes a while though. I mean, there were a whole bunch of things when I first came to the state where people say, "Wait till you find." I'm like, oh, "Come on, oh really?" Pluses and minuses, right? But this notion that you got to go to out of state for multi-million-dollar vendors to come in here and tell us how we should market ourselves to the world is maybe one of the classic mistakes this Raimondo administration has made. Recoverable, though. Seems to me, if I'm the governor, I pick up the phone and say, Mr. Bromberg, that's pretty creative. Nice job on that. Maybe we ought to have a little discussion. Now, do you have rights, copyrights to this? Because the original copyright on the music is what?
It's the state. The state owns it.
The state owns it.
The state does own it.
Right. And
Copyright is
The
good
state
for-
has.
Copyright is good for 30 years after you pass away. So,
But I think that the actual 45 record has the copyright for the Department of Economic
So did you have
Development.
to go through any hoops to actually be able to use the song?
No.
You just went ahead and did it?
Yeah.
Because the state owns it.
Yeah, and what the governor said was everyone should put their own 2 cents in, to tell their own Rhode Island story. So we did it.
Did you talk to a lawyer about that? Huh? Can the state sue you over that? I don't think so.
no, we
hope-
paid for it
no, don't even-
with our taxes.
Oh, that's a whole.
good point, Steve.
No, but no,
Good
it's
point,
like a
Steve.
whole thing. Well, I listen. The worst, if they've made some bad PR moves, the worst one would be to litigate over this.
Right.
But I would think that if now that I'm clear on this, the state owns the song, then the state ought to think pretty seriously about using your example and let's go.
It's just as just as the state owns Cool and Warmer. They said people do whatever you want with it. Well, we feel it's the same exact thing with this.
Yeah. What's your take on what this whole crazy last few months has been about marketing the state?
Well, I think that for us, it gets back to what we've shown here that can be done. Whether this is the exact right answer, I don't know, but we think it's a good one.
My take on it is I've gotten so many phone calls of people telling me that they hate me now because they can't get the song out of their mind. They heard it once, they sing it all day.
Lexi's got her hand up.
They sing it all day.
Which is probably back the same in the day when it first came out.
Right.
It really is.
Right, exactly. Yes.
It is really catchy.
Yeah, it is.
And it only had a very short life back then. It ran for one flight on radio and TV,
Right.
and then it ran briefly in these magazine ads.
You would like to see the state borrow the creative, correct?
Like I said before, there's no way you can write a song that captures the spirit and the fun of Rhode Island the way this song does.
All right. How's the register ringing over this? People responding?
I hope so.
You're not going to tell me?
Well,
Business is good, right?
it's good, yes.
It's Benny's, for crying out loud. All right. I think the state of Rhode Island ought to make a little move on this and say, hey, let's all have some coffee and talk about this, because sometimes the answers are right in front of you. When we come back, final word. Stay with us.
Story to be told. It's new and yet it's old. It's small, but it's as big as a deep blue sea. It's younger than today and 300 years away.
By the way, as we're producing the show, the president just endorsed Hillary Clinton. Surprise, surprise, right after a meeting with Bernie, right? We'll talk all about the nature of that coming up on tomorrow night's program. A roundtable discussing the politics of the week. They have been interesting, no doubt. See you on the radio at 3. Bye.